I know what you're thinking. You want to farm really good mushrooms, but you just don't know what type of extractor fan to buy for your mushroom fruiting chamber. In this video, we're going to look at the types of extraction fans we use here at our farm. This is one type of extractor fan. This is an inline fan. This is brand spanking new. But we also use another type of extractor fan, and that is a centrifugal fan, which are the important fans, and they're the ones we run at the back of our fruiting room. And those fans are the ones that have to get all of that spore-filled, humid, warm, dirty air out of that fruiting chamber. And remember team, if you are interested in selling mushrooms for profit, check out the top pinned comment or in the about section. We will show you how we do it so you can do it too. So let's look at these two fans now, and then hopefully after this video you'll be able to make a reasonably educated decision on what mushroom fan is best suited for your growing operation. So the main type of fan we like to use is a centrifugal fan, and this is one right at the back here. Sorry, it's a bit mucky and it's really low light levels down here, so the footage might not be crystal clear. This is just a Prima Climber. We've had these fans ever since we started here, and they have been working flawlessly. These are also EC controlled fans. So this here is a cable which goes to my building automation controller. That's supplying a 0 to 10 or 2 to 10 volt signal. And these fans wind up or slow down based on the amount of CO2 in the room there. There'll be that little cable going through the wall there. That is to a CO2 controller on the other side. That there controls our lights in here. And obviously we've got bats hanging all over the wall because it's really cold here at night. Right now it's getting down to about 0 degrees, water's freezing on the ground. We like to keep these rooms warm if we can. You can hear there's a bit of vibrating these walls. I've actually got a little bit of polystyrene on these walls, which is a bit hilarious. But these fans, they do get lots of spore and gunk build up on them. Because they're centrifugal and they spin round, they're able to blow most of that gunk off the blades and keep them pretty clear. That's one of the major benefits of having these over the the inline fan, which we were looking at just out there. So these, because they use a centrifugal motion to force that air up and then out the sideways, and then it wraps around and up and back up. If the blades get gunked up, they still retain their efficiency somewhat, whereas the inline fans don't. They actually get quite inefficient. One slight problem we have here is these tubes go out and they vent the dirty spores outside. It gets real cold at night and the air coming out there's real warm, and around here is real cold, so we get condensation on the inside of these pipes which drip down. You can actually hear, the water almost in there on those fans, just a little bit. We could probably avoid that if we insulated these pipes, just haven't done it yet. But yeah, these are our fans, Prima Climber. I think they're a really good brand. These are 450 cubic meters an hour these fans run at, and these fans are only running at like 30-40% most of the time, so they don't actually go very hard. I do just have to slot them out. I can just pull this pipe here off and pull that one off, and give these fans a clean out, which I have to do every now and then. You can see there's just gunk all over the floor because these drip down here. We don't really get back here and clean it too much, but this is way out the back of the mushroom farm. We don't really ever come down here for any other reason than servicing these two fans. So this is our inline fan here. Now this is also an EC fan, which means we have speed control of the fan. Now again, the speed control here will be 0 to 10 or 2 to 10 volt. Now I use these as intake fans, not as extractor fans, just like that first one we looked at. Now the reason I only use these as intake fans is because they run similar to a turbine. You can see in there's that wee turbine thingy which spins around. When they get clogged up with spores, they get quite inefficient. See if you can see that in there. They get quite inefficient. And the reason for that is the air has to come through, and it has to rely on a fairly well engineered blade to come through and hit that air, and it's going like that way, hit that air and drive it through, so the air gets driven through. If that blade has a lot of gunk build up on it, it's going to lose its efficiency at pushing that air through relatively quickly. And now it's for that reason that I prefer not to use these for extractor fans. My last farm, I had one of these as an extractor fan. It wasn't a very good one. I've got a really old video about it, and they actually broke. After that, I went to centrifugal fans for extraction, and it's worked a treat ever since. But these fans are great if you want to have air that gets driven into your fruiting room. Now, fruiting rooms can either be positively or negatively pressured. Usually they're negatively pressured. There's an occasional situation when you can run a positively pressured room. Negative pressure rooms are good because they control the spores. The mushrooms in there are releasing spores, and if it's negatively pressured, those spores will stay in that room and they'll get sucked out the exhaust pipe. And you can test if a room's negatively pressured, and I do not recommend this because you might start a fire, but it's how we do it. You just get a lighter like that and you put it by the door there, and you can see that flame actually gets sucked in that little gap there. That means that there's a slight suction around this door, and that's going to prevent spores from egressing out of that gap and into the room around us in here. We don't want to be breathing these spores. If the spores get out, they actually land over the top of our boxes and whatnot. So that is the reason why we like having these rooms at negative pressure, and that is the reason why I like to use the centrifugal fans to suck the air out. You can run a room positively pressured if, let's say, you're growing in a container outside, and the container's outside in the open here. Doesn't matter if spores get out because they're just going to blow away in the air, right? So you can positively pressure a fruiting room which is mounted, the whole thing's outside, and in that situation it's beneficial because you don't get the spores building up on the fans, and it's a lot less pressure on the equipment, and it's going to extend the life of your equipment. But for almost all other situations, and I think 90% of small-scale mushroom farmers, negatively pressure is the way to go. You want to keep the spores in there. You don't want them getting out. If this room is positively pressured, they will just blow out that gap there, all spores, so you want to keep those spores in that room. This is where my ventilation comes down. You can see where it's got a wide join there, and it goes into these two big 250mm, again, EC fans, and there's a backdraft damper in front of them. These just help push that air into the fruiting room. The main reason we've got those two isn't to feed air into the fruiting room. They are to help stop backdraft. So if, let's say, this fan here is turning up because there's a lot of CO2 in this room here, it stops that fan wanting to suck air out of this fruiting room here. And again, I know you say the backdraft dampers might achieve that, but if this fan's going hell for leather, that backdraft damper there might get held shut as it creates its suction down the line, and we might stop feeding fresh air into this room here. So that's what those two fans up the top for. They're not designed to feed, they are designed, but they're not designed to keep the fresh air pumping in quickly. They're just designed to keep it flowing the way it's supposed to flow. They are slaved to the two fans at the back, so they will always run at a slightly slower speed. And these rooms should always stay negatively pressured. If those fans at the back do get real gunked up, if we don't service them quick enough, these rooms can switch to the positive pressure, but that's very rare when that happens, and once I notice that, we just get in there and clean them out. You can always tell when they're positively pressured because the doors will, when they're, the doors will usually pull, and the door's getting a bit tight. The doors will usually pull themselves pull themselves shut a millimetre or two, and that's how you can tell that there's a negative pressure in that room. This fan here, the reason why I got this fan is this is like, it looks like a flow hood. It's basically a flow hood. I've just had this made here. This is actually going on the roof of my office, and we're drawing air in from one end of the office, pumping it through the HEPA filter, blowing it out the other end. That's going to create a slight airflow past the door to our lab, so we can further control our any contamination issues that we might have arise. We have a little bit of contamination. There's some bags, I don't know if you can see them in that corner. They're just contaminated bags for the week. Actually not the week, that's probably about 4 weeks of contaminated bags there. But we just want to control it a little bit more. So this fan here will simply mount on the top there, like so. And that, just like that there, and we don't need a lot of pressure through it. It's just to blow a bit of air and just to get a bit of airflow, clean airflow through our office building just behind you. So to sum it up, we've got inline and centrifugal fans. I think centrifugal fans are more optimal for extracting dirty air out of your mushroom fruiting rooms. You can use an inline fan if it comes down to it, if it's all you got, but I think it's suboptimal. If you're going to be pumping air into your fruiting rooms, feel free to use these inline fans here. They're really good. I've got a number of them around the place. EC fans are great because you can just put them in, and you can fiddle with the speed dial on the side, turn them up and down, and you don't need CO2 sensing. You can just have a look and see how your mushrooms are growing. And if you think there's a bit too much CO2 in there, you can just turn them up a touch and get a bit more fresh air flowing into those rooms. If we go into our room now, we should be able to gauge how good the mushrooms are. We've got two racks in here finishing, so you can see all these mushrooms here. See they're all growing really nicely. They're all really uniform. What is quite funny is the ones at the top, if we look up the top there, the ones at the top are all slightly more grown than the ones at the bottom. And that's simply a symptom of heat. These fruiting rooms will get like a degree or two hotter at the top than they will at the bottom throughout the night, especially at the night time now because it's very cold at night. Here's another rack over here. There's a rack down there, I don't want to bump into them down there. And then the back side of that is full too. So there's 50 bags on this and 40 bags on this, so this should produce us near, these two racks here will do us near on 100 kilos of mushrooms. Look at that, they're all good mushrooms. I've got some more here too, some of these are second flushing. We second flash our mushrooms in this room here, which is a lot lower humidity because we think it finishes the mushroom a whole lot better. We get a high quality mushroom. There's our CO2 sensor there, so that's sensing the CO2. This is where you can see there's a bit of condensate water, which is, see that water there? It's come down. We're always cleaning in here. Got to keep the place clean. Those are made for heat exchangers, which I just haven't ever got around to installing. The place works great without them, so they're real far down the list of things to do. We can actually see a little bit of contamination. There's some there, a little bit of trike on that bag. Down here too, a bit of trike on that bag. You can see trike's a real nuisance in your operation. If you get it in a lot of your bags, you can actually fruit mushrooms from trike bags. We don't like fruiting from bacteria-filled bags. Bacteria is bad. Trike, it does hinder the mushroom fruiting, but if we get a little bit of trike isolated in a bag, we'll still fruit the other side of it, and you'll still get decent mushrooms off it, right? But again, we're always trying to control it. We don't like it.